The last balloon had deflated hours ago, its silver surface now wrinkled against the marble floor of the Grand Meridian Ballroom. Marcus Chun pushed his cleaning cart between abandoned tables, each one still decorated with untouched party favors and half-eaten slices of elaborate birthday cake. The silence felt heavy after an afternoon of children's laughter and celebration. He paused near the main stage where a DJ had been spinning upbeat songs just hours earlier. Something caught his attention in his peripheral vision. Near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a small figure remained motionless in a wheelchair, silhouetted against the golden late afternoon light. Marcus glanced around the empty ballroom. The other maintenance staff had finished their sections and left. Security would be making their rounds soon, but for now, it was just him and whoever that was by the windows. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you've seen similar moments of unexpected connection where you're from. The girl couldn't be more than 9 or 10 years old, wearing a beautiful purple dress that probably cost more than Marcus made in a week. Her dark hair was styled in perfect curls, and even from a distance, he could see the careful attention that had gone into her appearance for what should have been a special day. Marcus set down his spray bottle and approached slowly, his soft-soled work shoes making barely a whisper against the polished floor. As he drew closer, he could see her small shoulders were trembling slightly, though whether from cold or emotion, he couldn't tell. She was staring out at the city skyline, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The wheelchair was clearly expensive, custom-made with purple accents that matched her dress. Everything about her screamed privilege and care, yet something about her posture spoke of profound loneliness. Marcus stopped a respectful distance away and cleared his throat gently. The girl turned, revealing tear-streaked cheeks and eyes that held far too much sadness for someone so young. She had been crying silently, he realized, probably for quite some time. "Emma," he said softly, reading the name embroidered on a small banner that had fallen beside her chair. "That's a beautiful name. I'm Marcus." He knelt down to her eye level, his cleaning uniform wrinkling as he did. "This was your party, wasn't it?" She nodded wordlessly, fresh tears pooling in her dark eyes. The elaborate decorations around them suddenly seemed almost mocking in their cheerfulness. Dozens of children had been here earlier. Marcus remembered seeing them through the service doors, but none had stayed to keep the birthday girl company. Marcus nodded respectfully and continued down the hall, but his mind lingered on the patient's symptoms. The way her fingers had curled slightly, the particular rhythm of her breathing. These details meant something, whispered of complications the night staff might miss until morning rounds. By 6 a.m., he was home in their small apartment, making breakfast for Sarah. She sat at their tiny kitchen table, homework spread around her cereal bowl, dark hair falling across her face as she concentrated on math problems. "How was work, Daddy?" she asked without looking up, pencil tapping against her lip in the same thoughtful gesture he remembered making during medical school. "Just cleaning Mija. Nothing exciting," he replied, though his thoughts kept returning to room 314. He wondered if the patient was awake yet, if someone had noticed the signs he had seen. Sarah looked up then, her brown eyes serious beyond her 8 years. "You always look sad after work. Do you miss being a doctor?" The question hit him like a physical blow. He had tried so hard to shield her from his regrets, from the weight of his choices. Sometimes, he admitted quietly, "But I like taking care of you more." She smiled then, gap-toothed and radiant. "Maybe someday, you can do both again." Marcus kissed the top of her head, tasting hope and heartbreak in equal measure. "Maybe someday," he whispered, knowing that someday felt impossibly far away. "I was thinking about my dad," Emma said finally, her voice so quiet Marcus had to lean closer to hear her. "He used to say that birthdays were for making wishes, but I don't know what to wish for anymore." She gestured toward her legs with a bitter expression that seemed far too mature for her age. "I already know what I want, but wishes don't work for things like this." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He recognized that look, that particular combination of hope and resignation that came with accepting limitations others couldn't understand. He had seen it in his own mirror during the long months of physical therapy after the accident. You know, he said carefully, sometimes the best wishes aren't about changing what already happened. Sometimes they're about finding new kinds of magic you didn't know existed. He paused, watching her face. What did you and your dad like to do together? Emma's expression softened slightly. We used to draw together. He was teaching me how to paint with watercolors. She looked down at her hands. Mom bought me all these expensive art supplies for my birthday, but it's not the same doing it alone. Her voice cracked slightly. Everything's different now. Marcus nodded slowly. Different doesn't always mean worse, he said gently. It just means you haven't discovered the good parts yet. The sound of footsteps echoing across the marble floor interrupted their conversation. Marcus looked up to see a man in an expensive suit striding toward them, with obvious irritation written across his face. His polished shoes clicked sharply with each step, and his perfectly styled hair suggested he spent more on grooming than Marcus made in a month. "Excuse me," the man called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Marcus rose slowly from his seated position, automatically reaching for his cleaning cart. "I'm sorry, sir. I was just finishing up the ballroom cleanup and noticed the young lady was still here." His tone remained respectful despite the man's obvious hostility. Brad Morrison, according to his gold nameplate, was the venue's event coordinator. His eyes swept over Marcus's maintenance uniform with undisguised disdain. "Well, you can stop bothering Ms. Rodriguez now and get back to your actual job. This area needs to be cleared and reset for tomorrow's corporate event." Emma's face flushed with embarrassment. "He wasn't bothering me," she said quietly, but her voice lacked the confidence to carry any real authority. Brad barely glanced at her. Nevertheless, maintenance staff are not supposed to interact with guests. He turned back to Marcus with a dismissive wave. "Move along." Marcus began to step back, but Emma reached out and caught his sleeve. "Please don't go," she whispered, her eyes wide with a fear that seemed disproportionate to the situation. "You're the first person who's actually talked to me today." Brad's expression hardened. "Ms. Rodriguez, your mother specifically instructed that you wait here while she finishes her conference call. She'll be down shortly to take you home." He shot Marcus a warning look. There's no need for unauthorized personnel to be involved. Something in Emma's grip on his sleeve, the desperation in her small voice, stirred memories Marcus had tried to keep buried. He remembered sitting in hospital waiting rooms, watching other children struggle with their new realities while adults moved around them, making decisions without really seeing them. "It's okay," Marcus said softly to Emma, kneeling back down to her level despite Brad's obvious disapproval. "I'll be working in the building for a while yet. Maybe we'll see each other again." He gently freed his sleeve but held her gaze. "Remember what we talked about finding new kinds of magic." "This is completely inappropriate," Brad muttered, pulling out his phone. "I'm going to report this to management." Maintenance staff overstepping boundaries, disturbing guests. His fingers moved quickly across the screen, typing what was clearly a complaint. The elevator chimed softly across the ballroom, and all three of them turned toward the sound. A woman emerged, her heels clicking purposefully against the marble as she approached. Even from a distance, Marcus could see the family resemblance between her and Emma. She had the same dark hair and intelligent eyes, though hers were shadowed with exhaustion and stress. Dr. Isabella Rodriguez carried herself with the unmistakable presence of someone accustomed to command. Her tailored business suit and confident stride spoke of boardrooms and million-dollar decisions. But as she drew closer, Marcus noticed something else, a tightness around her eyes that suggested the weight of responsibilities beyond just corporate success. "Emma, sweetheart, I'm so sorry that took longer than expected." Her voice softened considerably as she addressed her daughter, though Marcus detected an undertone of guilt. The Singapore merger required immediate attention. She glanced around the empty ballroom with what might have been regret. Brad immediately stepped forward, straightening his tie. "Dr. Rodriguez, I was just handling a situation with one of the maintenance staff." He gestured toward Marcus with obvious disdain. "He was bothering your daughter. Completely inappropriate behavior." I've already documented the incident for my report. Isabella's gaze shifted to Marcus, taking in his uniform and humble posture. Her expression was unreadable, professional courtesy masking whatever thoughts were running through her mind. "He wasn't bothering me, Mom," Emma said quickly, her voice gaining strength. "He was the only one who stayed to talk to me after everyone left." Her small hands gripped the armrests of her wheelchair as she looked up at her mother with earnest eyes. "He asked about Dad and our painting together." Isabella's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, something softer replacing the professional mask. She looked at Marcus with new interest, noting how he stood respectfully, but without the cowering deference Brad seemed to expect from service staff. "I see," Isabella said carefully, her business training evident in how she gathered information before making judgments. "And what exactly did you discuss about painting?" Marcus met her gaze directly but respectfully. "Your daughter mentioned that she and her father used to create art together, and that she has new supplies but finds it difficult to enjoy them alone. I was suggesting that sometimes when we lose someone important, we have to find new ways to connect with the things they taught us." Brad shifted uncomfortably, clearly frustrated that his complaint wasn't being immediately validated. "Dr. Rodriguez, regardless of the conversation content, it's still a violation of protocol for maintenance staff to engage with guests without supervision." Isabella held up a hand, silencing Brad without taking her eyes off Marcus. Her analytical mind was processing something deeper than workplace protocols. "You speak about grief and connection with unusual insight for a janitor," Isabella observed, her tone neutral but probing. "Do you have experience with children who have lost parents?" Marcus hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. My son Tyler is 8 now. Learning to help him process that loss while dealing with my own has taught me that children often need someone to simply acknowledge their pain rather than try to fix it or distract them from it." Isabella's eyes widened slightly. She glanced at Emma, who was listening intently to every word. Her daughter had been through months of expensive therapy sessions, child psychologists, and grief counselors, yet none of them had managed to get Emma to open up the way this maintenance worker apparently had in a single conversation. "That's very wise," Isabella said quietly. "Most adults want to rush children past their sadness rather than sit with them in it." Brad cleared his throat impatiently. "This is all very touching, but it doesn't change the fact that there are appropriate channels for these interactions. We have trained counselors on staff, proper protocols to follow." Marcus remained silent, recognizing that this wasn't his decision to make. He had said what needed to be said. Now, it was up to Emma's mother to decide what was best for her daughter. Emma suddenly gripped her wheelchair's armrests tighter, her breathing becoming rapid and shallow. The mention of protocols and formal counselors seemed to trigger something deep within her. Her face flushed, and small tremors ran through her hands. "I don't want another counselor," she said, her voice rising with panic. "They all ask the same questions and give the same answers. They tell me I need to accept my new normal and focus on what I can still do." She looked desperately between her mother and Marcus. But Marcus understands. He knows what it feels like when everything changes and people expect you to just be okay with it. Isabella immediately moved to her daughter's side, recognizing the signs of an anxiety attack. Emma's breathing was becoming more erratic, and tears were streaming down her cheeks again. "Emma, sweetheart, breathe with me," Isabella said, but her own voice carried traces of panic. She had seen these episodes before, usually triggered by reminders of therapy sessions or discussions about her father. Marcus stepped forward without thinking, his professional instincts overriding workplace protocols. He knelt beside Emma's wheelchair and spoke in a calm, measured tone. "Emma, look at me. Can you tell me 3 things you can see right now in this room?" His voice carried a different quality now, authoritative yet gentle, trained and confident in a way that made both Isabella and Brad stop and listen. Emma's breathing began to slow as she focused on Marcus's calm voice. "The chandelier," she whispered. "The birthday cake. The purple balloons." Her grip on the wheelchair loosened slightly as the grounding technique took effect. "Good," Marcus said, maintaining his steady tone. "Now 3 things you can hear. My heartbeat, Mom's breathing, your voice." Emma's panic was visibly subsiding, replaced by the kind of focused calm that came from practiced therapeutic intervention. Isabella watched in amazement as her daughter's crisis passed more quickly than it ever had before. She had witnessed dozens of these episodes over the past year, and none of the expensive specialists had managed to help Emma regain control so effectively. "Who are you really?" Isabella asked Marcus directly, her CEO instincts recognizing expertise when she saw it. Marcus remained focused on Emma for another moment, ensuring she was fully stabilized before standing to face Isabella. "My name is Marcus Chun. I have a doctorate in child psychology with a specialization in trauma and disability counseling. Before my wife died, I ran a private practice helping children adjust to life-changing circumstances." Brad's mouth fell open. Isabella felt her own assumptions reshaping themselves as she processed this information. "Why are you working in maintenance?" Isabella asked, though something in Marcus's expression suggested she might already understand the answer. "After the accident, I couldn't face working with other families when I was failing my own son," Marcus explained quietly. "The maintenance job gave me steady income and flexible hours to be there for Tyler during his grief. It was supposed to be temporary, but staying invisible felt safer than risking failure again." Isabella looked at her daughter, who was now calm and listening intently. Emma had connected with Marcus in ways that months of traditional therapy hadn't achieved. The answer to her prayers had been right there, pushing a cleaning cart. "Dr. Chun," Isabella said, using his proper title for the first time, "I've been trying to launch a pediatric counseling program through our foundation. We want to help children facing challenges similar to Emma's. Would you consider heading that initiative?" Emma's face lit up with genuine excitement for the first time all day. "Really? You can help other kids like me?" Marcus felt tears forming as he looked between mother and daughter. "Tyler would love to meet you, Emma. He's been hoping for a friend who understands what it's like when everything changes." Brad quietly slipped away, his complaint forgotten and his prejudices challenged. 6 months later, the Chun Rodriguez Family Foundation opened its doors with Dr. Marcus Chun as director. Emma had become one of Tyler's closest friends, and Isabella had found someone who understood that healing required both professional expertise and genuine human connection. If this story touched your heart, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite moment, or if you've ever witnessed someone showing extraordinary kindness to a child who needed it most.